The Beringer factory is rather humbly known as Beringer City, which kind of raised my hackles when I first heard that, but after seeing it for myself it seems appropriate enough. There are more than 3,000 workers. Furthermore, almost all the blue-collar factory workers live on site in dormitories. Beringer City has 2 enormous cafeterias, recreational facilities, its own security detachment. So yeah, it's more than a factory. It's a village of sorts. Which to our Western sensitivities all sounds a bit grim and Dickensian. But it doesn't feel that way. And here's where having video footage speaks 1,000 words. Yes, there are lots of people. No, they don't look oppressed. They look busy, efficient, motivated, but not set upon. Do they live in conditions that you'd find in a Swiss watch workshop and earn a wage you might get in Belgium? Of course not. They work 8 hours a day, they sleep 6 to a room in dorms, they eat in a big room with 500 comrades and watch telly with 20 other people. This is China, and a job at Beringer is seen to be pretty cool. One thing I did note though was all the factory workers seemed young. I'm not talking 14, I'm talking the legal age, but no older than early 20s. I figure they need to move on if they want to have a family. Seems like a job for the young and the child-free. Regardless, we weren't at the factory in some pseudo-UN monitoring role, and we were hardly going to be invited if workers were being whipped, starved or force-fed Australian soap operas. We were there because this is a new factory and the Beringer bigwigs are bursting with pride about their more efficient processes. They have a whole floor of R&D where gear is compliance tested. Speakers are being caned with 120 dB of white noise, amps are being rigged to some fearsome dummy loads, mixers, faders are being moved 1,000,000 times by machines, gears being set on fire, dunked in water, kicked, sworn at and given detention. It was mad, but impressive. Beringer's identified compliance testing as the issue of 2007. If gear doesn't spec out and it's then used by a postal worker to kill people in a Walmart, then heads will roll, and Beringer's pretty keen to stay out of the courts. The R&D level also sported a room for testing the feel of a new Beringer product. I wish I was able to get footage of this, but there was one poor chap whose job for the whole day was to insert and pull out a 1/4-inch jack plug, while another chap turned pots on a powered mixer. This wasn't to check if they worked, it was to determine what they felt like. Beringer's been on this new site for less than a year, and you can smell the excitement. Uli Beringer and CEO Michael Deeb are like a couple of school kids showing their mates around the cool new stuff they got for Christmas.
I think for the ones who have seen factories in China, you can tell the difference by now, right?
And when I was talking to Uli Beringer, I kept going back to the notion of soul. He's still the head of R&D. He still gets a kick out of new gear and filling a niche. But is a deep-seated love of audio still there, I wonder?
I would say that they should think, or we hope they think about the best value proposition so we get the best quality for the best price.
Unmistakably, there's a glint in his eye. There's no doubt he cares about the gear. But for him and Michael Deeb, it's all about feature sets and value for money propositions. There is no Beringer sound. Nothing in the Beringer DNA that makes it different. And there never has been. It's always been about putting professionally featured products into the hands of people who previously had no chance of affording it. That will be Uli Beringer's legacy. And now, a market chock full of competition from the likes of Wharfdale, Alto, Phonic, M-Audio and the like, Beringer competes by simply outdoing itself. It's bigger, more efficient, more streamlined, has more whiteboards and more test labs and more people plugging in 1/4-inch jacks. At one point I overheard Uli commenting to someone, "When people ask how we're different to every other Chinese-made product, I tell them, this." And he raised his arms messianically in one of the factory buildings, pointing at the facilities. It is impressive, there's no question. But does Beringer have soul? Personally, I don't think so. Beringer hasn't sold out or prostituted itself. It's always been about cheap, decent gear, and nothing's changed. Does Beringer allow musicians and producers with soul to get a start? Yeah, of course it does. That night, the visiting journalists attended what was flagged as a Beringer anniversary banquet. The truth was far more interesting. It turned into a giant staff party. There were over 3,000 people, all workers, all out for a great time, with Beringer staff offering the entertainment. Everything from hip-hop routines to saxophone solos to mini beauty pageants and lucky door prizes. I was transfixed. Everyone was having a great time and there was a real sense of camaraderie. And I think that's worthwhile me passing that on. Behringer gear may not be designed with soul, but it's made by people who genuinely care. In other words, there is passion there. I'm not entirely sure why that makes me feel a lot happier about Behringer, but it does.